I read 16 books in April, and here are my thoughts on all of them. Hello everyone, welcome back to another monthly reading wrap-up. We're here with all the books that I read in April. April was another busy month for me. I was traveling to a Polycon for a good chunk of the month, so I was trying to read where I could, but the convention was so much fun and I was so swamped with all of the exciting events and meeting all the authors and other readers that I didn't get as many as I liked, but I still feel like I read a lot. I feel like for me this month, the books that really hit home were all of the YA romances that I read, which I'll get into in a second, and then I had one 5-star read that completely blew me away, and I'm very excited to talk about it as well. Overall this month, I read 6,436 pages and listened to 124 hours. 63% of the books that I read this month were audiobooks, 25% were print copies, and 13% were digital. The good majority of the books were again from Libby this month, 56%, 25% were print copies, 12.5% were from NetGalley, and the last 6% were from Hoopla. Also, I apologize in advance if the lighting goes in and out. It's like partly cloudy outside, so anytime a cloud passes over the sun, it just gets super dark in here, but I'll try my best to fix it in the color editing. Alright, so the first book that I read this month was a YA romance, and as mentioned, I really loved all of the YA romances I read in April, and it was Lady Night by Amali Howard. This is the standalone companion novel slash sequel to Queen Bee by Amali Howard. I love that one so much. It features a brown girl as the lead heroine of the story, and it's very Bridgerton coded, and so is this one. It's a historical YA romance set in England between a Persian boy and I believe a Caribbean girl. Our FMC Zia is the younger sister of the MMC of the first book. I don't really think you need to read Queen Bee before you read Lady Night. The stories are completely different, but I'm biased and I do recommend reading it just because it's such a good book. In this book, our FMC Zia is part of this clandestine social club called the Lady Knights, and they basically meet in secret and learn how to fence, compose music, and read controversial literature, and nobody really knows about Zia's involvement in this club, except one day Rafi, our MMC, finds out about Zia's involvement, and they make this pact where he'll keep her secret safe about being in this club if she also helps him out in return. This is technically like brother's best friend because Rafi is the best friend of her older brother, and so there was a little bit of a forbidden romance thing going on, but overall this book was super swoony. I loved all of the lines and the dialogue that came out of this book. It has a little bit of like hidden identity as well, and overall just really fun. So if you're looking to get your Bridgerton fix until season 4 releases, I suggest picking Lady Night up. The next book that I read was Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This also is a standalone companion novel slash sequel to Phantasma, which I loved when I read it. Enchantra follows Ophelia's sister Genevieve, who is kind of on her own in this book. In this book, she ends up in her own deadly game slash trial, and it's really fun just following her as an FMC. I think I might like her more than Ophelia, if not the same. I love the setup of the Deadly Games in this book. It follows this like one particular family and is set in this one house. So just seeing all the sibling dynamics was a lot of fun, and just like the way that each round went. But I will say that some of the rounds were kind of a letdown for me. Like it didn't really feel like they were in as much danger compared to Ophelia and Phantasma. Like the stakes felt a little bit higher in Phantasma for me. So I think that's where this book fell a little short. I also personally think that Blackwell was the better MMC in Phantasma. I liked Rowan, but I had a hard time believing that he actually had feelings for Genevieve. I didn't really know if he was actually on Genevieve's side in this book until maybe like the very end, but I still really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, and I think Kaylee Smith has now become an auto-buy author for me. I know she has 2 more books set in this like Wicked Games series, which I'm super excited about. Plus, she has a whole separate dark fantasy trilogy that's set in the same world as Phantasma that's also releasing, so very excited for all of her upcoming releases. The next book that I read and the first audiobook I listened to this month was Just Our Luck by Denise Williams. This was a super cute romance, but I don't think it's my favorite from her. The FMC Sybil frustrated me a lot, especially because I'm Thai Bae, so just seeing her get into so many misunderstandings and mishaps just got on my nerves a little bit, but that kind of is how her character is pitched. Like she's supposed to be this kind of like directionless, floundering woman who's bouncing from job to job and just like can't seem to to get anything right until she meets our MOC Kieran, who runs this donut shop with his family. I loved all of the donut themes and innuendos in this book, and overall the romance was cute, but yeah, I just got like a little bit frustrated at times. Then I read another YA romance, and that was Build a Girlfriend by Elva Luz. This is an adorable and hilarious YA second chance romance. It features a Puerto Rican FMC and family. I really love the strong support of women in this book and all of the family dynamics between our FMC, her sister, her aunts, and her mom. And I don't know if you can see, but I have a million tabs in this book, and it's from all of the romance scenes. As mentioned, this is a second chance romance, and there were so many moments that made me squeal or giggle or just like laugh out loud. With the second chance romance, the main character and the love interest reunite after like a year or something, and so you get a lot of great jealousy scenes as well. It was so good. I also got the chance to meet Elva at Yellow West earlier in May, and she was so sweet, and it was so much fun just getting to gush about this book with her. Highly recommend it if you are a YA romance reader. Then I listened to 2 more audiobooks from Nalini Singh in the Psy Changeling series, Caressed by Ice and Wild Embrace. Caressed by Ice is the 3rd book, I believe, in the main Psy Changeling series. It was really cool reading this book and getting to see more of the new Psy designations that we haven't seen yet. I did enjoy Wild Embrace a little bit more. It's another like short story collection of novellas. I love how Nalini is able to pack in so much romance and tension and emotion and backstory into such a short novella. Like, some of these short stories were so good. I need full like novels of these characters. There was like one story that was like a second chance romance, another one was kind of like a workplace romance, so overall some very delicious stories. I also got the chance to interview her at ApollyCon ahead of the new paperback release of Slave to Sensation, and it was so much fun. It was really nice just hearing her insights about her writing process and all the effort that she's put into this massive series. I'll be releasing the content for it soon, so keep an eye out on my Instagram and TikTok. The next audiobook that I listened to was No Ordinary Love by Maya Ariel. I really like this one. I think I liked it better than this author's debut romance. It follows our FMC Ella, who's a pop star and is now sucked into this legal battle with her ex-husband Elliot, who she's been married to for 8 years. He's also in the music industry and really took advantage of her when she was super young and eventually started cheating on her. So she's trying to fight for her independence, except that Elliot has this like really ironclad prenup against her. And then one day she's at this awards show and she catches the eye of this star MLB baseball player named Miles, and immediately the chemistry and the tension between them is off the charts. But she can't really afford to get into this new relationship as she's fighting this legal battle with her ex-husband. But her team sees this like opportunity to kind of like repair her image by pretending to be in this like PR relationship with Miles. And of course, as they like pretend to be in this relationship, the lines between fake and reality blur, and Ella has to like really decide whether she wants to go all in with Miles. I don't usually read celebrity romances, but I love when they include fake dating, and this one was so much fun. There's a scene where they collaborate on one of her music videos, and that one had so much tension. I also just really loved how Miles treated Ella after her marriage with Elliot. Super gentle and caring and tender, and it was just like really refreshing to read that and like root for Ella to be in a relationship with him after seeing everything that she'd suffered with Elliot. This book also features disability rep. Miles has a speech disability, and so it was really cool getting to like hear that in the audiobook as well. The next audiobook that I listened to was Living Legend by Ali Shante. I was really excited for this one because it's a fantasy by a Black author. It features like angels and demons, and it also has, from what I was told, a very searing romance. But it just didn't land for me, and I was really disappointed by that. I felt like the fantasy was really drawn out, and I had a hard time believing the romance. I felt like the MMC didn't have feelings for the FMC once again. Like, their chemistry felt just very one-sided and almost bland from his part. I did really love the narration though. The MMC in particular is narrated by Jacob Morgan, whose narration I love. So if you were to pick this up, I'd recommend the audiobook. Next, I read Not Safe for Work. This is Nisha J. Tooley's debut contemporary romance, and it was pretty solid. I feel like it's always hard to see a fantasy author go to contemporary or contemporary author go to fantasy. You're always like hoping that it's good, but I enjoyed this one. It follows 2 rival employees who are forced to go on this leadership retreat together in Hawaii, arranged by their company, and has a lot of forced proximity, of course tension from like being rivals and then seeing that lead to something more. Overall, the characters are really fun to follow along. I feel like Nisha always writes such amazing jealousy scenes too. There were some really good ones in here. I think the only aspect of this book that I had a hard time with was the actual office/workplace romance. It just felt so unbelievable unbelievable to me, and this is not just for this book, but just like workplace romances in general. There are typically so many scenes that violate HR policies so greatly that I just sit there in shock at what I'm reading, because if any of the events of this book happened to me in real life, I would be running in the opposite direction, reported to HR immediately, and then immediately resigned from the company. Like, what do you mean that you're sharing a bedroom with your coworker? What do you mean he's walking around shirtless? What do you mean he's making comments about your body under his breath during a group leadership training exercise? Like, this is crazy. Anyway, if that doesn't deter you, I think you'll enjoy this one. I feel like that's the only reason I had a hard time reading it. Another audiobook that I listened to this month was Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I know this book is so beloved by so many romance readers. I have to say, I absolutely love the narration for this one. The narrator is truly an actress, and I don't mean that literally, because I do think she actually is an actress in real life, but also just like her narrator performance in this book. She would add gasps, laughs, choke on her words, have her voice cracked when the time needed it. Like, I really felt like I was sucked into the main character and in her head. Especially because this book deals with grief, I feel like the narrator did such a good job of portraying someone who was dealing with grief firsthand. So yeah, A+ narration. Definitely will be checking out this narrator's other audiobooks. As for the actual story, I was really vibing with the first half. I thought it was super endearing. I loved all the relationships between the characters. Our main character is babysitting for this single mom and her younger daughter, and then we have the daughter's uncle, who is also kind of in the picture and is trying to step in where he can, and he's the MMC of this book, the love interest. But I feel like the second half is where I started to lose interest. A, I felt like the romance was kind of fizzling out, and B, I feel like the plot was kind of going off in this direction that I didn't really expect it to. There were also some scenes towards the end of the book where the FMC was practically begging the MMC to like kiss her and be with her, and the MMC was like, no. And I think he meant it jokingly, or like meant it in a way where like, both you and I need more time until we can actually be in a relationship. But the amount of like begging that she was doing, I was like, girl, you need to stand up. Like, what is going on? So yeah, I think this was about to become a hit, but it kind of just went downhill for the second half of the book. The next book that I read was my 5-star read of the month, and it was Son of the Morning by Kweke Emezi. I have been such a fan of Kweke Emezi's books, and you guys already know this. I read Soma Dina last month, and then the month before that, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Up until this month, I felt like Kweke's YA works were my favorites of theirs, but Son of the Morning swept me off my feet. I was so enamored by the world that Kweke created in this book. I really love how they're able to weave like fantasy elements with a contemporary setting. This book in particular is a paranormal romance with the paranormal and supernatural elements, which I felt like were heavily based on Christian theology, were super intriguing. I'm not sure if a sequel is planned for this book or if it's just a standalone, but it does make for a really great standalone. But if not, I would love to read more about this world, because I feel like we only scratched the surface here. And then speaking to the romance, I really feel like Kweke wrote this book for the girls and the gays. Without really spoiling too much, I feel like this book is perfect for people who read love triangles in books, especially in fantasy books, where you have the typical like girl who has two guys fighting over her. If you've ever read a love triangle like that and you thought to yourself, this is dumb, they should just all get together, you might want to sit down for Son of the Morning. Anyway, I highlighted so many moments of dialogue and inner monologue in this book because the romantic scenes were truly hitting. We have 4 main POVs in this book, and 3 of them are from Galilee, Lucifer, and Leviathan, who I would consider our main characters. Their dynamic, chef's kiss. I feel like across all of their books, Kweke does such an excellent job of building these character relationships that are so intimate with one another. I feel like their characters are always filled with so much compassion, empathy, and care. Reading their books, in my opinion, feels like love in all of their forms, romantic, platonic, and familial, and I can definitely say that for this book. I've been describing this book to my friends as if Beverly Jenkins, strong FMCs, queer paranormal romance, Black Southern Gothic, and Christian theology had a baby, it would be Son of the Morning. So if that intrigues you, you should go pre-order this book. The next audiobook that I listened to was To Steal from Thieves by M.K. Lobb. This is a YA heist fantasy book, which was so much fun. I love a good heist, especially in YA fantasy. It follows our main character Zarya, who is an alchemologist and has the ability to like brew special magic. And we have our MMC Kane, who is a con man, and he essentially recruits Zarya to help him steal this rare necklace in order for both of them them to get things that they want. They reluctantly team up. Zarya has a very strong dislike for Cain, and Cain convinces himself that it's the same for him. But as you can probably guess, as they go on their mission, feelings start to complicate things. I really love the high tension and chemistry between Zarya and Cain. They also present this like very hard, cold front to society, but deep down they would literally lay down their lives on the line for the people in their life that they love. I feel like their characters are true mirrors of one another. Like they're genuinely the same person, and they would both realize it if they just got over their mutual dislike for one another. I love reading character dynamics that are like that, and I'm very excited to see where their relationship goes in the next book. We kind of leave off on a cliffhanger, so definitely very excited for the sequel and to see what repercussions both characters face. Then I listened to another audiobook, Divining the Leaves by Shweta Thakrar. This is another Desi contemporary fantasy book. I love the aesthetics and world building that Shweta Thakrar puts in all of her books. Not just Divining the Leaves, but also Dream Runners and Star Daughter. They both had such beautiful aesthetics. They're always very whimsical, and it's always really cool to see how she integrates it into our like contemporary world. In this book in particular, the character dynamics kind of threw me off. If you see the cover of this book, you see the MMC and the FMC, and you expect them to be the main couple in this book, but they actually have separate romances, which kind of threw me off. And I didn't really enjoy their separate romances either, because the MMC's romance was super insta-lovey and insta-lusty, and the FMC's romance was like truly so terrible. I feel like she didn't even get a proper romance, so I don't know, I was kind of unhappy about that. But again, if you really love just like very whimsical fantasy worlds and just like being sucked into the magic that Shweta puts into her book, I'd recommend reading this one. The last YA contemporary romance that I adored this month was You Started It by Jackie Kalile. Something about a YA romance with fake dating schemes is going to do it for me every time. I loved You Started It so much. I think probably better than Jackie's debut, Something More. I feel like Jackie's voice shines so brightly through her writing and the characters in this book. And sometimes I feel like authors who are trying to write teen romances like really do not understand the mentality that teenagers have in today's day and age, or the lingo that they use, or what they do for fun, the way they text. But Jackie nailed it on the head so perfectly. Speaking to our main character Jamie, I really love following her as a main character. She's smart, determined, and sensible. I related to her so much. She deals a lot with anxiety in this book, and how her anxiety symptoms kind of manifest as symptoms of like IBS and other like physical manifestations. I could not relate to a character more in my life. I was telling my friends that like this was the representation that I needed growing up, because why do I feel exactly the same as Jamie anytime I'm anxious for no reason? I also loved the family dynamics in this book. Jamie has an uncle, Amo Eli. He is so funny. He's probably my favorite character. His jokes have me dying, and just like the way that he banters with Jamie, but like is always in her corner and is always supporting her no matter what. That was so cute. I also really love that he was there for her to lean on when she was learning about her family heritage and what it means to be Palestinian and learning about her roots. We also have Jamie's mom, but she's slightly more disconnected to being Palestinian and Arab and her Arab side of the family. And she was frustrating at times during the book, but I really appreciated how Jamie navigated her relationship with her. Felt like it was really realistic for a lot of teen daughters and their moms. And at the end of the day, I understood where her mom was coming from when it came to protecting Jamie and making sure that Jamie didn't make the same mistakes that she did growing up. And then lastly, the romance in this book. This is fake dating, as I mentioned. We have our MMC Axel, who's also Arab, and I just love that we got this like super cute Arab romance. I loved this goofy boy so much for Jamie. He was like the perfect counterpart to her character. The way he got her to come out of her shell, try new things, be out of her comfort zone, while also acknowledging her anxiety, her pain, and her frustrations. Absolutely adorable. And I really loved how he was also someone Jamie could turn to learn more about her Arab heritage. I think my favorite scene in this book is when he teaches her how to dance dabke at her cousin's wedding. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And because a lot of this book deals with Axel and Jamie fake dating to get back at Jamie's ex, Ben. Obviously, we had some great jealousy moments as well on both Ben and Axel's side. Overall, this book is such a banger. I will not shut up about it. I think all of Jackie's fans and YA romance readers and people who want to support Palestinian authors should definitely pick up this book. I also got the chance to meet Jackie at Y'all West, and she was super sweet. She even signed my book so sweetly. She even signed my book with such a sweet message. She wrote, "Dear Yushi, so nice to meet you. I'm a fan." I love her so much. Go pick up You Started It. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Shadow Bride by Shelby Mahurin. This is a solid sequel to The Scarlet Veil, which I read sometime last year. This is a vampire romantic fantasy. It's a duology. I love the series so much more than Serpent and Dove, which was Shelby's first trilogy. The writing, the world building, the characters is so much more elevated in this duology. And speaking to the audiobook, I love the narrator for Celie. She's so good at invoking Celie's emotions, especially her pain in this book in particular, but also just like feeling so scared and fearful that she's not going to be able to protect her family. I just wanted to give her a hug so many times throughout this duology, but I'm glad that she finally got her happy ending since the beginning of Serpent and Dove to now, like 5 books later. The last audiobook I listened to this month was none other than Watch Me by Tahira Mafi. I have to admit, it was really fun to go back into the world of Shatter Me with this book. Shatter Me was one of the first series I read when I joined BookTok, and I absolutely loved it. It is very much a book you can only read when you like first start reading or like when you're in middle school. I think if you've read a lot of like high-level fantasies with a really quality writing and literature and plot, you might not enjoy Shatter Me, but as someone who was like kind of just starting out on BookTok and just like poking around at different fantasy books after having been a reader my whole life, I didn't really mind it, so maybe you'll enjoy it too. It definitely invoked a sense of nostalgia in me to be reunited with Juliet and Warner and Kenji. I'm not super happy with where 2 particular characters ended up after 10 years. I'm not super happy with 2 characters in particular and where they ended up 10 years after the events of the Shatter Me series. Like after everything that we've worked through, this is how the characters were treated. Okay, but I did love Warner and Juliet, of course. In my opinion, there is no MMC who loves their girl more than Warner loves Juliet. I said what I said. This book, of course, follows a new main couple. We have James, who is Adam's younger brother. He's now all grown up 10 years later, and he's working for the rebellion against the reestablishment. And then we have Rosabelle, who is one of the lead soldiers for the reestablishment, and she gets captured by James. She's like a trained assassin. She's like monitored by the synthetic intelligence, which was really creepy. I feel like overall James and Rosabelle's dynamic was okay. It felt very similar to Juliet and Warner, so I didn't really feel like I was reading anything new. And overall this book is definitely a catch grab, like don't get me wrong, especially because this book is so short. Like I think the audiobook was only like 8 hours or something, and you know that this story is going to be drawn out for like another 3 books when it easily could have been just like 1 or 2. So plot wise, I don't really think this is anything new, but if you love Shatter Me, you love Warner and Juliet, and you just want to see like snippets of them, then you could pick up this book. Those are all the books that I read in April. Again, it was like a slightly shorter reading month this month. I suspect that things will also start to get shorter and shorter as the summer continues. There are so many releases though coming out in like the next 3 months that I really just need to lock in for. And I'm once again traveling in the first few days of June, so we'll see when the May wrap-up releases. But let me know which book was your favorite read of April, and if you read or loved any of the books that I mentioned in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!